Well, more games in the 3 p.m. UK time kickoff in the Premier League. We're going to start at Stamford Bridge because for long chunks of this game, it looked like Chelsea were going to narrow the gap at the top on leaders Liverpool to just 1 point. And then things changed. Mark Donaldson, Luis Miguel, Echegaray, Janusz, Michallik at the bridge. Chelsea won up and leading thanks to a brilliant goal from Cole Palmer. And Fulham, well, you didn't give them much chance of coming back. And the reason for that is they hadn't scored at the bridge in the Premier League since 2011. And they hadn't won there since October 1979. LME, not only did they score, but they scored twice. And they won for the first time in 45 years. How did Fulham do that today?
Marco Silva played a great game today. He led a really good strategy. He loaded up that midfield. He pushed Anthony Robinson up, who in my opinion is the best left back in the Premier League. He made them compact, and he knew that Chelsea were going to come with everything, especially the moment they lost the ball. So Marco Silva said, all right, I'll raise you. We won't lose the ball. They had more passes than Chelsea, and even though they went down due to a Cole Palmer's opener, they still persevered. And here's the theme for Fulham Football Club this season, MD and Janusz. To me, it's about being a collective unit. And the moment you go forward, simplify things. Make it very simple. Go forward, go wide, and penetrate. And I thought it was a really, really smart move. And obviously, it wasn't one of these scintillating performances, but it was a victory. And also, when you look at the statistics, they were pretty even against the Blues. And to your point, they haven't won here in a very long time, but it's been the trend here for Fulham. And I'm very, very impressed. Even though Raúl Jiménez didn't score, he led the line, he was physical, and of course, it was Muniz that came in later, but it was a really good, professional performance from the Cottagers. Well done winning against Chelsea.
Even Janusz, when they were a goal down, they still had opportunities. And I'm glad LME mentioned Anthony Robinson because he was bombing up and down that left-hand side, had a chance. It was well saved by Robert Sanchez. But after Harry Wilson equalises in the 82nd minute, you've got to be more disciplined, surely, when trying to chase a winner. And it came from Robert Sanchez, and it wasn't a great kick out, and Fulham had a 3-on-1, and they took advantage of that. But is that a lack of experience when it comes to trying to chase a winning goal, having been pegged back? Or what is it? Because at least Chelsea should have had a draw, and in the end, they go home with nothing.
Okay, so, yeah, I'll answer that. Fulham, first of all, I mean, you're right. And on top of it, they're a very good team. The goalposts have changed. The goalposts have changed for Fulham, right? They showed that, last year and this year. They're no longer playing just to survive in the Premier League. They know that they're good enough to be fighting for Europe, for something bigger. And you could see that. I mean, the draws against Arsenal, Liverpool, I mean, it's been on an uptick. Good two substitution. Howard Wilson is making a habit of that, by the way. And Rodrigo Muniz, both of them come in, both of them score. And you're quite right. You could sense it. You could smell it, even in the first half, certainly in the second half, that they could. Now, when it comes to Chelsea, as we said, I think the ups and downs are normal for that team at the stage of the rebuild. And although I think they should demand a lot more from themselves because this is a good opportunity. This is a great season to kind of win it. Looking at City, obviously Liverpool are strong right now, but I think they should demand more of themselves because with Chelsea now, I almost feel like we don't have the right to demand anything from Chelsea, right? Do we not all say that they're going to be a disaster? So I almost feel like I have to give them benefit of the doubt. Although, yeah, I mean, dropping points away to Everton. We saw Everton today, obviously, playing, and this one leading 1-0. They should have done more, and so they'd have to feel. I mean, not just 3 points lost, but at least if you can't win it, right? What do they say? Don't lose it.
Oh, and the parameters have moved. And yeah, that was the case in the summer as far as what we expected of Chelsea. But their own form, their own excellent form and their excellent play and their middle to front play and their chance creations and their goal scoring has meant that the parameters have changed. And it's not what it was in the summer. And maybe, LME, they're a victim of their own early season success here. So that's why this one's going to hurt, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it. The goalposts have changed. The objectives have changed. Janusz is right. We were all surprised at the beginning of the season, but now that's different. We're talking about a team that I know Maresca doesn't like to talk about it, and he's probably right, used to the example today, but this is a team that is right now pushing Liverpool to the title. Whether that happens or not, we'll wait and see, but it is that kind of a good team, and now we're being surprised by it. I think they just went through a hiccup. They're going through a hiccup right now. I think offensively, it's an issue. Everton did a good job at holding them. But I think today specifically, it was a situation where Marco Silva outcoached Maresca. Because in that midfield, when Chelsea push and they lose the ball, you got Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez kind of trying to hold fort. But what Marco Silva said, as I mentioned earlier, was let's modify and strengthen that midfield and let's capitalize on that. And I think it was just a good performance. I don't have any issues from Chelsea moving forward. I think they'll still push for a top four and keep fighting, specifically because they have such a monstrous squad. But at the end of the day, today, I think it was just a really good battle-ridden performance from Fulham, and Maresca and Chelsea felt it.
Janusz, with regards to Chelsea and goal scoring, what's changed? Because prior to Harry Wilson's goal today, it was going to be a good win without being a great performance. It was just get the job done and get over the line, happy days, 3 points, on you go home. But they didn't get enough from Nico Jackson today, and they replaced him with Nkunku. So are we starting to see the fact that Cole Palmer, as a brilliant player as he is, can only do so much, and he needs a little bit more help from elsewhere? And you've spoken with me and with LME on a number of occasions how you feel Nkunku is a better natural goal scorer than Nicholas Jackson. Should we be expecting more for Jackson right now?
Standing, right? I mean, Nico Jackson's been in very good form, proving me wrong. I was just surprised. I'm still not 100% sure what happened with Madueke, by the way, but they could have done with him today. I think the out-coaching part also is maybe not recognizing from Maresca what was starting to happen in that second half. And again, we can sit here, but I was just looking, you look at Nkunku coming very late in the game, right? I think you needed to smell that and change that. And it just makes you wonder why he didn't make any more changes, right? You saw Mark Hughes scoring a hat-trick again. Okay, it's Shamrock Rovers, but I mean, he's been in decent form as well. João Felix, why not change things a little bit to give Fulham something to worry about, because there wasn't much of it. Pedro Neto towards the end starting to play, but that wasn't a great performance from him by any means. Jadon Sancho in the beginning, he looked lively, but obviously I was expecting maybe to make those changes. It's sometimes it's easy for us to say, well, look at Marco Silva, right? Harry Wilson comes in and Muniz, they've proven that they're good off the bench. We didn't see that from Chelsea. I don't know if we can say that the bench, makes that massive of a difference. I'm sure somebody can call me on other games, but today that spark I felt was needed, because from Fulham we knew it. You're quite right to point out Robinson; he's been outstanding. What about Alex Iwobi, right? I mean, the reemergence of him is quite incredible. Not just in this game, he's been their, I would say best player just about every game I watch. So it was missing. That spark of the bench today from Chelsea was missing, and for some reason Maresca chose not to use it, because even in Nkunku, when did he come in? 80th or whatever it was, a minute. So that was very disappointing, because I mean, Maresca is smart. I mean, he saw that coming. This didn't, the Fulham didn't just wake up 5 minutes towards the end. They played a very, very good game at Stamford Bridge from start to end.
Yeah, this wasn't a smash and grab. I mean, Fulham had their opportunities when they were a goal down. We've seen games where you've got 75% possession, you get done by 2 late sucker punches. This wasn't one of them. And for Chelsea, it's a missed opportunity. But for Fulham, I'm always reticent to kind of just focus purely on the big team that loses the game when the team that's not expected to win gets the victory. It's an excellent 3 points for Fulham. They're in form, they're flying right now, and as Janusz said earlier, that's a good win at Chelsea. That's a good point against Liverpool at Anfield, and a good point against Arsenal. We move on and we head to the northeast of England, and LME watched this game as a Villa fan. Normally I would start with the goals, but I want to start with the key incident in the game. And I'll get your take as a Villa fan. Hopefully you can see both sides of the story, and then I'll get Janusz's take. It was a red card to John Duran. It was given for violent conduct for standing on the back of Fabian Schär. And it went to the monitor after the red was shown, and it was deemed not a clear and obvious error, so the red card stood. Should it have been a red? First of all, you, LME.
Yes. Here's the thing. Per the rules, as you mentioned, there was no clear and obvious to overturn it. Anthony Taylor looked at it, and there was, per his rendition, intent. And if I can just chime in here, somebody that covers the club, not just as a fan, but as an analyst as well, I know Jon Hader Duran from his early days. And unfortunately, the mental aspect of his game, which is his strength, because he's so confident, it's remarkable. He just turned 21 years old. His mental side of it can also be his Achilles heel. He can get very temperamental. He knew that Schär was in his, physically trying to battle against him, as he was the lone striker for Villa today. And there was a step right before he stepped on him. And unfortunately, when you look at it, you can't go against what the referee decided to. And in my opinion, it was a red card. And obviously, you saw Jon Hader Duran's temperament even after he got sent off, kicking the bottle and walking off. He's young, he'll learn. And unfortunately, the red card kind of told the narrative after that, because even though Villa were 1-0 down before that red card, I thought it was a pretty even battle, and there were some good opportunities for Villa to get into it. And every Villa fan will tell you that Eddie Howe has Villa's number since becoming Newcastle's manager. They do very well, especially at St. James's Park. The red card ruined everything, but it was the right decision, in my opinion.
What about you, Janusz? Do you agree with LME, or do you think it was more of an accident than serious foul play?
Yeah, I'm conflicted about it. Look, I mean, I watched that, and it's so difficult to make up to avoid some of this, because if you saw it, his left foot, certainly not intentionally, stepped on Schär. So, then there's a guy falls in front of you. I think if it wasn't for that second goal, I could say my bigger problem with that is that I think looking at VR, and it was tough to overturn that. And I agree with you, LME. I just have a problem in general with something like this, because this is going to go down as violent conduct, isn't it? Right? Mm-hmm. He's going to get 3 games. He's going to get 3 games for that. And that's absolutely nonsensical. Because I'm not in his head, and LME knows him obviously a lot longer than I do. But it's a tough one. I can understand how it's hard to overturn that, really, because that second time. But I also know as a player, when a player falls in front of you like this, where do you go when you're kind of slipping and out of balance? Because that left foot was kind of slid, as you see, he stepped on him a little bit, and I think it was very hard. And I don't know because I don't know those rules. My apology. I don't know if they can fight that. But I mean, 3 games in any league, but for any team in the Premier League, when you have these games, I think it's silly, by the way, because I don't think this was violent conduct. And I'm just, that's just me.
I get what you're saying, and I can see the kind of grey area here. And I know LME said he thought it was red, and there's a bit of where else is he meant to put his foot, but there's also, playing devil's advocate, he had time not to do what he did. That's why I think and it'll be mixed. Some people will say a yellow would have been enough. Some people will say no, it should have been a red. That's why even if you do fight it, I think you're going to have a very tough time to get it overturned. But as Janusz points out, for serious foul play, for violent conduct, it is a 3-game ban. At least it means Ollie Watkins will get a start now. It's probably the only way he was going, given the form of John Duran. Now, for Newcastle, Alex Isak, another goal for him. He's at times unplayable. But how big a part to play does Anthony Gordon have, LME? He got the opening goal, and he seems to be the one that just goes about his business and does what he does, which is outstanding, and doesn't get many headlines for it. It's not a bad place to be, is it, for Anthony Gordon?
No, not at all. It's a wonderful goal. I thought Matty Cash gave him about an ocean of space to take it, but it was a great goal. And look, let's be honest here. Anthony Gordon is a great talent. He just needs to find consistency. But he reminds me of an old school winger where he just wants to go at you, and whenever he sees the chance, he can take it. He is ridiculously fast to the point that I don't even think we talk about it enough. His recoveries in terms of even losing a ball, trying to track one, is so good. And Newcastle are going to need that. At the beginning of the season, I was critical of Newcastle because they were conceding too many goals. Now, defensively, they're more compact. And obviously, it's a little bit hard to judge today because they were playing against 10 men for the majority of the time. But now they seem more organized. And offensively, they can go at you. And Anthony Gordon is a great example of that. I just love that kind of winger, the winger that just wants to go at you, and he's not afraid of pushing back. And it was the difference between what Matty Cash was doing when he was defending Jack Grealish against City, as opposed to someone like Anthony Gordon, who just really wants to aggressively pursue that ball. And Newcastle are going to need that. And to your point, when you have the likes of Alexander Isak doing his thing up front, who, for such a big man has, feet of a ballet dancer, it's just really difficult to stop. Joelinton doing his thing in the midfield, Bruno Guimaraes. So this is a Newcastle now that's gaining a little bit more confident. Obviously, they jumped above Villa in the table. Mm-hmm. And as long as defensively they can stay like this and resilient, then, all good for Eddie Howe and Newcastle.
Yeah, they're starting to pick up a few clean sheets over the last few games as well. Someone else, Janusz, who I think is a bit of an unsung hero and doesn't go looking for the praise, but doesn't often get it, is a player who set up Alexander Isak for the second goal. And I'm going to take you back to the start of last season. And there was a lot of talk, Newcastle have to sign a kind of right-sided forward, someone that can play inside right, someone with a bit of pace. Miguel Almiron came in and had a blistering start to the season and was undroppable. Right now, Jacob Murphy is undroppable. And we've seen this movie before, haven't we? He makes that really clever run. I think it was Guimaraes with the pass. Inside right, kind of in between the fullback and the left centre-back. And it needs the pass, but it also needs the run. And Jacob Murphy right now is absolutely flying.
Yeah, but that's the whole story. LME started it with that. He mentioned some names. This is what's happening when everybody's starting to pick up, right? To step up. And that's exactly what's happening. Look at Guimaraes, the game he had. Goal, disallowed. Yeah, he didn't know much about it, but, in the second goal, he played a part as well. You look at Jacob Murphy, we've seen that before. That's 3 goals and 4 assists in the last 5 matches for him as well. So this is, Tonali in cup competitions, not long ago, couple goals. So that is important. Joelinton, right? So defensively, quite right, because I've always felt that they were strong defensively when healthy. And when Nick Pope, remember that season? They've been good in that. So I don't think they've forgotten about it. And that's a great point that LME has made. To me, is the part of going forward. That Anthony Gordon, who hasn't had an outstanding season, but he's the sort of player that can change the game with one play. We all know that, right? Ability to take on. And Jacob Murphy, we've seen that from him. So I think if you look at the midfield 3 with Joelinton, Guimaraes, and Tonali, and now Gordon, Isak in form. Isak, what's that, 10 goals in 10 Premier League appearances now? That's absolutely outstanding. So you see that. But it was a game before the red card and after the red card, because I'll tell you what, with Villa, and I was a little bit negative, LME. You won't let me forget that, probably. You won't forget that. But what I like about Villa is that they know how to bounce. They don't get rattled easily. And even after that, was it 90 seconds when Newcastle scored, you could see that they were in a game and they were going to go on. And I think at a place like that, after the red card, the game changes. I give Villa credit because it seems to me, I have a good feeling about it. They always come after you, no matter what the results. And they tried that for the longest time, and it was just too much after a while.
It's pretty tight, isn't it, LME, between 5th and 9th? You spoke about Villa going below Newcastle now. Well, they're down in 9th. Newcastle are up in 5th, just 1 point. 29 points, Newcastle in 5th, 28 points. Villa in 9th right now. But maybe it was just games catching up on them, a hectic period. How well overall do you think Villa has done managing their Premier League games and managing their Champions League schedule together?
Really well. Look at the table in the Champions League. They're basically there in the next round. They just need to secure it, and it's been a tremendous run. Taken into consideration, by the way, that this is the first time Villa entering the Champions League in more than a decade. So, it's important to remember that. And then the Premier League, listen, I think everybody, not just Villa fans, knew that the competitive nature of trying to get this European spot was going to get that much tougher. The quality and management across the board has just been so good. And so it's not just Unai Emery and Aston Villa that need to fight against this. It's so many others. So overall, I would say, given the difference, because again, you mentioned it, the points differential is more important than the position. Because look at how many teams are fighting for European places or even just the top 10. And Villa is one of them. So I'm not saying they're perfect. I think there's been some mistakes. I think, today, a silly decision by Jon Duran, in my opinion. And in the past, there's been some matches that haven't gone Villa's way, specifically in that run where, Villa didn't win for a little bit. But overall, staying in it and Champions League football, just keep on doing. And that's what Unai Emery is going to do. He's the kind of manager, just like Janusz said, in in-game situations. In training, Unai Emery is going to be like, right, let's rectify what's going on here. Let's bounce back on Monday against Brighton.
Let's wrap it up today with Nottingham Forest. Nuno against his former club, Spurs, lost by 1-0 at the City Ground. Anthony Elanga with the only goal. Special sauce, secret sauce. Janusz, what is it? What's in the water of the River Trent that these pilgrims go to before the games and end up with 3 points and continue their marvelous run?
I feel like I'm not qualified to answer that question because in one of my predictions before the season, I had Forest relegated. So I apologize.
Did you specify which season, though? There's
this season I had them relegated. So there you have it. What do I know about that? I really don't know. It's a team thing. When you keep winning, it's a habit, right? Just like losing. Manchester City is a great example of that. When you don't have to think about it, everybody appreciates the player next to you. You work extra hard. We all know about their form at home in general. Even last season when they're struggling, that's a refuge for them. The fans are outstanding. Now they're doing a home and away. It's a big club for some of the young people that are watching this and listening. So I'm not surprised. I'm happy for them. I just misread. I didn't see that coming. I think the struggles will come because they always do for everybody, and they will come for Nottingham Forest. But maybe they won't. Maybe I should just shut up and let them talk about it.
Just let them write.
Maybe he has an answer why this is happening. I don't. I really don't. Other than fair play to them.
Sometimes you don't want to get off the roller coaster when you're having so much fun. And that's what Forest are doing right now. Just the game as a whole, Forest winning it by 1-0. It was more of the same for Spurs, wasn't it? It was plenty of the ball, 70% of possession, but on target, off target shots pretty similar to Nottingham Forest. And it was a good through ball by Gibbs White for Elanga. But what needs to happen to Spurs going forward now? Because Janusz and I and you have spoken about their unpredictability. They can score 3, they can score 4 against Man United in the League Cup, 3 against Liverpool, but then they throw in something like this with a lot of the ball and don't do much. What are Spurs right now?
I don't know what Spurs are right now. They're one thing one week, another thing another week. Yeah. I do know that we were talking earlier about, the stubbornness of Pep Guardiola, and obviously, he's an auteur in his own right and everything. But Ange Postecoglou suffers from the same thing sometimes where, he's so adamant about what he wants that sometimes he's losing the bigger picture. That's just my opinion. I'm sure that he will disagree. And as we know, he wants enough of that in press conferences. But I think that today, Tottenham needed to learn a lesson from what Nottingham Forest do really well, which is Nuno Espirito Santo, former Tottenham manager, doesn't really care so much about the picture. He cares about the end product. He wants his team, and Janusz said it actually. Janusz says that he doesn't know much, but he actually, in terms of Forest, but he actually said exactly the right thing, in my opinion, which is Nottingham Forest is a team that breeds on confidence and just that feeling of being collectively together. And you said it, MD, in momentum. This is a Nottingham Forest side that just cares about being together collectively, being reactive in matches, because sometimes things are not going to go their way. Possession, shots on target, etc. And so Tottenham need to learn from that. You're not always going to destroy people. It's not always going to be Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. You have to sometimes really just rely on the fact that you need to win when you don't have the ball. And that's just not Tottenham. Postecoglou wants to come at you every time. He wants to give you highlights. He wants to entertain you. And for the neutral, it's great. But what happens away from home? And that's exactly what's happening. And here's the bigger factor, by the way, especially towards the end of a year, the beginning of January, whatever. These teams from his system, they get tired. And so now you're not really doing what he wants you to do. And now you're also tired as well. So this is a problem. And Nottingham Forest are actually the complete opposite. That Nuno Espirito Santo's Forest remind me a lot of what he was doing in his first season with Wolves when he got them to 7th historically. It's, you know, they're really direct. They rely on the counter. Elanga might as well be Adama Traore, right? It's a really old school way of thinking, but it's working. And I agree with Janusz. I don't think it's going to last. There's going to be obstacles, but Tottenham need to take a page from other clubs like Forest, which is sometimes you need to represent yourself as a reactive team and be compact and play well off the ball, as opposed to always just stick to plan A, because sometimes plan B and plan C is more important.
2 other games that played at the same time. West Ham won 1-0 at Southampton. Not a good start for Ivan Juric. And Bournemouth Palace will be last on Match of the Day tonight because it was rubbish and finished 0-0. We'll be back after Man United's trip to Wolves for a recap of that. We'll see you then. Bye for now.